At the end of this topic, you will be able to define the physical quantity speed, describe variable speed and uniform speed, express the equation of average speed. We see and interact with moving objects every day. The most obvious feature of an object in motion is speed. The physical quantity speed refers to how fast an object is moving. Fast-moving objects, say for example a car, has a high speed and covers a relatively large distance in a short period of time. On the other hand, slow-moving objects such as a bullock cart has a low speed and hence it covers a relatively small amount of distance in the same period of time. An object with no movement at all has a zero speed. We can define speed as the distance traveled by the body in 1 second. Speed is equal to distance traveled divided by time taken. You are probably familiar with the speedometer of a passenger vehicle, which tells the speed of the vehicle every instant in kilometer per hour. However, the SI unit of speed is meter per second. The distance traveled is measured in meters and time in seconds. Hence, we have the unit of speed as meter per second. By knowing the speed of an object, we can calculate the distance traveled in a given time. Distance traveled is equal to speed into time. As an object moves, it undergoes changes in speed. Let us take the speed of a bus during its journey. When the bus is nearing a bus stop, its speed decreases. On the highways, the bus travels with a greater speed. But in a city or town, it travels with less speed due to heavy traffic. The bus has 3 different speeds at 3 different times. So we say that it has a variable speed. For such bodies, we can calculate the average speed. The average speed of a moving object is the total distance traveled divided by the total time taken. If a body travels equal distance in equal intervals of time, we say that it has uniform speed. In other words, the body moves with the same speed at all times. In this topic, you have learnt speed is defined as the distance traveled by the body in 1 second. The SI unit of speed is meter per second. Average speed is equal to total distance traveled divided by total time taken. If a body travels equal distance in equal intervals of time, we say that it has uniform speed. At the end of the topic, you will be able to represent graphically the motion of a body, plot distance-time graph. A graph is a means of representing data that will facilitate a comparative study between a set of data. During the telecast of cricket match on television, graphs are used to illustrate the progress of the teams at various stages of the match. It also compares the performance of the two teams. In kinematics, graphs are used to describe the motion of objects. We could analyze various other data from the graph. Line graphs show dependence of one physical quantity like distance or velocity on another quantity, say time. Some of the graphs that are used to study motion are distance time graph and velocity time graph. In these graphs, time is an independent variable that keeps changing. It is always taken along x-axis. Other variables like distance and velocity are dependent variables that depend on time. These dependent variables are always taken along the y-axis. Let us try to plot a distance time graph for the given set of values. Selecting axis and scale. Draw 2 lines perpendicular to each other on a graph sheet. The horizontal line on the x-axis be marked as OX. The vertical line on the y-axis be marked as OY. The independent quantity time is taken along the x-axis. The dependent quantity distance is taken along y-axis. The scales to represent distance and time could be x-axis 1 centimeter is equal to 1 second and y-axis 1 centimeter is equal to 10 meters. Plotting the graph. To start with the plotting of graph, mark the given values of time and distance on the axis according to the scale we have selected. Next step is to plot the points on the graph sheet. Then join all the plotted points. We get a straight line. For uniform speed, we get a straight line. For variable speed, it could be of any shape. Observe the distance time graph of different persons traveling between two places by walk, cycle and by car. Observe the graph that as the speed increases, the graph grows steeper. It can also be understood that it covers greater distance in time. In this topic, you have learnt, in a distance time graph, greater the speed, steeper will be the graph. Uniform speed, the distance time graph is always a straight line. Variable speed, it could be of any shape in a distance time graph. At the end of the topic, you will be able to define velocity, express the unit of velocity, define acceleration, express the unit of acceleration, explain acceleration due to gravity.
In ordinary conversation, the word velocity and speed are often interchanged. But in science, it is important to distinguish between these two terms. The displacement of a body is the straight line distance OD vector, represented as S vector. Then, velocity is defined as the rate of change of displacement in unit time in a specified direction. Thus, velocity v vector is equal to displacement by time, which is equal to S vector by t. Have you ever been caught in a traffic jam? Consider a car moving through a busy road with a number of signals in between. The motion of a car is not uniform because the car has to slow down at traffic signals. Here, the displacement and the time vary. So speed and velocity both will be varying.
Whenever there is a change in the direction of motion, it results in the change of velocity even though there is no increase or decrease of speed. This is due to the fact that velocity is a vector quantity that possesses both magnitude and direction. The rate of change of velocity is referred to acceleration. Acceleration occurs any time an object's speed increases, decreases, or changes direction. Let us learn in detail about acceleration with examples. Let us now see an example for acceleration. Consider the motion of a freely falling body, that is a ball dropped from a height. Note the velocity of ball every second. At 0th second, its velocity is 0 meters per second. At 1 second, its velocity is 9.8 meters per second. And at 2 seconds, its velocity is 19.6 meters per second. At 3 seconds, it is 29.4 meters per second. And at 4 seconds, its velocity is 39.2 meters per second. Looking at the values, reveal that the object's velocity is changing by 9.8 meters per second every consecutive second. That is, the free falling object has an acceleration of approximately 9.8 meters per second square. It can be observed from the figure that its displacements are increasing and hence it's accelerating. The acceleration of the freely falling body due to gravity is called acceleration due to gravity, that is g.
Acceleration is the measure of change in velocity. It is defined as the rate of change of velocity. In other words, it is the change of velocity in 1 second. It is expressed in the form of equation as acceleration is equal to change in velocity divided by time taken. The SI unit of acceleration is meter per second squared.
Let us now discuss an example for deceleration. What will happen to the velocity if the body is thrown upwards? If a stone is projected upwards, its velocity decreases and becomes 0 when it reaches its maximum height. Here, the final velocity v is less than the initial velocity u. Velocity decreases at the rate of 9.8 meters per second square. A body projected upwards travels with deceleration.
In this topic, you have learnt velocity is the displacement of a body in 1 second. It is measured in meter per second. Acceleration is defined as the rate of change of velocity. The SI unit of acceleration is meter per second square. The velocity of a body decreases by 9.8 meter per second every second when thrown upwards and increases by 9.8 meter second every second when it falls down. At the end of this topic, you will be able to list some of the adventure sports, describe the sport of gliding and its types. Imagine flying like a hawk thousands of feet above the ground. The air is very cold and the view is tremendous. If you find the updrafts, it can keep you aloft and you can enjoy it for hours. This is the experience of gliding. We will now discuss the two types of gliding, the hang gliding and the paragliding. Hang gliding is a sport in which a pilot flies a light, unmotorized aircraft called a hang glider launched by foot. Most modern hang gliders are made of aluminium alloy. The pilot is safe when fastened to a harness suspended from the frame of the glider. You can fly to your dreams by paragliding. We're talking about paragliding, non-motorized foot-launched flying with an inflatable wing. Paragliding is the latest aerosport. A paraglider is a non-motorized foot-launched inflatable wing, easy to transport, launch and land. It is basically a parachute made of special nylon or polyester fabric. The pilot is clipped to a harness in a comfortable sitting position. A paraglider is much lighter than a hang glider and easier to operate. Yelagiri in Vellore district of Tamil Nadu is a hill station with gentle slopes ideal for paragliding. Tamil Nadu Tourism holds a paragliding festival at Yelagiri in August-September every year. In this topic, you have learnt the dream of man to fly like a bird has come true with the adventurous sport of gliding. A paraglider is much lighter than a hang glider and easier